Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 ways that you can fetch data inside your React application. In this video, you will learn how to fetch data using fetch, which is a JavaScript built-in method, how to fetch data using Axios, React-query, and finally you will learn how to fetch data using article queries. I will show you how to make GET request, post request, delete request, and put request. At the end of this video, you will have this simple application where we have fetched all the products data from an API. So we are going to display all the products cart in our main page, and by clicking each cart, we are going to see more details about the products. Now let's get started. Okay guys, I'm inside my VS Code. As you can see, I have already generated my React application with the help of Vite. Now you can see my application is open here. So first of all, we need to find a fake API that we can use inside our application. So just go ahead and open this fakestore.api.com.doc, and in here you can see we have a fake API that will give us some products. For example, if I copy this link from here and open it in a new tab, you can see we have all the data of this product. So our first method is going to be this fetch. It is a JavaScript built-in fetch method that will help us fetch data inside our application. You can see inside this MDN web docs, Fetch API provides an interface for fetching resources including across the network. It is more powerful and flexible replacement for XML HTTP requests. Okay, you can use this built-in JavaScript fetch method to fetch data. You can actually read more about this, but now I'm going to show you how you can use this. So at first, I'm going to open this app.js and let's clear everything here. Okay, and I'm gonna just write a hello world for now. I'm gonna delete them from here and this one from here. Okay, so now for every HTTP request, I want to have a separate page. So for that, I need to install React Router DOM. So just open the terminal here and just write npm install React Router DOM. It will help us separate our pages. So now inside this search, I'm going to make a new folder called components, and our first file is going to be fetch method.jsx. Okay, let's initialize our React code here. Seems we just misspelled, it shouldn't have this E. Okay, if you don't know how to generate this React code, just open this VS Code extension and just look for React Redux snippet, and you can see we have this ES7 React Redux React Native here. Just install this and it will help you generate this React code easily. Okay, now we have installed React Router DOM here. So I'm going to open this main, and in here I just wrap this with browser router from React Router DOM. Okay, now let's open this app, and in here we need to return routes. It's coming from React Router DOM, and we will have our single routes in here. It needs to have a path, so I'm gonna set it to home page, and our component will be inside this element. It should be fetch method. Of course, you need to add this opening and closing tags here. Now you can see we have this fetch method in here. Okay, so now I'm going to delete this app.css here, and also inside this index.css I'm going to delete everything and just I'm going to target all the elements inside the application and just write margin 0, padding should be 0, and box sizing is going to be border box. Okay, and we need to actually remove this from here. Now you can see we have this fetch method in here, so we can have a little styling. So I'm gonna add a class name here called container, and let's open this index.css. I'm gonna target this container here. It should be container, and we're gonna add a weight of 90%. Margin should be 0 and auto. Okay, and also we just write a padding of 2rem and 0. So from the top and bottom we are gonna add a padding of 2rem. Okay, so now inside here let's have a heading 2, and I'm gonna say source product. Okay, you can see it's here, and let's give it a class name here, and I'm gonna call this title. Inside here let's add title. Let's write text align should be center, and we just add the text transform to be capitalized. Okay, we can actually increase the font size. Also we can write here font size of 3rem. Okay, now you can see we have a little bigger text here. You can change the font family if you want, but I don't want to focus on that. So now let's see how we can fetch data using this built-in JavaScript method. So I'm going to open this fetch method here, and in here we need to have two use state hook. The first one is going to be data and set data. It should be a use state hook, and it should be empty array by default. And also we are going to have another use state hook for our loading, so I'm gonna add this set loading also, and by default it should be false. Okay, so now because we want to fetch data, we need to use a use effect. So use effect will help us fetch data only once when the page is loaded. So I'm gonna write here use effect. Okay, and it should have a dependency here. Now inside here we need to have a new function. I'm gonna call this fetch data, and let's add this async. Okay, and inside here we need to have our try and catch block. So this try and catch block will help us target the error of our fetch API. So now in here we need to define a new variable. I'm gonna call this response, which is equal to await, and just write here fetch. Okay, now inside this parentheses we need to add our endpoint. So I'm going to copy this API from here, which is this one, and we need to wrap it with this double quote and write it here. So now we need to invoke the JSON type of this fetch. So I'm going to write here data, which is equal to await and response.json. Okay, now inside this error we just write throw new error and just pass this error.message. So if there is any error inside our function, with the help of this catch we will catch that error. So now if I console log this data here, and actually we need to call this function down here. Okay, now let's inspect the browser. So in here I'm going to inspect it, and as you can see we have an array of 20 data in here, and each data has category, description, ID, image, and so on. So now let's display them here. Before that we need to store this data inside this use state hook and also display our loading. Okay, so before our data is loaded we need to set the loading to be true, because if there is no data we want to show this loading. And finally we need to write finally here, and we need to set this loading to be false. So it means if we get our data or if we get any error, we want to set this loading to be false. Okay, so for this data, we just set data to be our data here. Okay, and yeah, that's it. So now we need to add our set data here inside our dependency. So whenever our set data got changed, then our function will be refetched. So down here, if I console log this data and inspect the browser one more time here, you can see we have the same data. So when there is empty array, we are going to show the loading, otherwise we want to show the data here. So now let's display this data. I'm going to have another div down here, and inside this curly braces we are going to say if we have loading, we want to show a paragraph tag saying loading text, otherwise we just map through this data. So data.map, we're gonna get each and every item, and down here we just return a new component called product and just pass item to this component. Okay, following that we need to have key because we are using map method, and it should be item.id. Okay, now let's add this product component. So in here I'm going to add product.jsx. Okay, now let's import it here. Okay, now you can see we have 20 product text here. So in here we can get the item. Okay, now let's console log this item. Okay, and inside this browser I'm going to say what we have. So we have description, we have image, and we have title and price. So down here I'm going to destructure them. It's coming from item. I'm gonna need the title, image, and also description. You can actually destructure any other thing that you need. You can get this rating, but for now that's enough for me. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this console log, and down here at first let's have an image tag. It should be image, and I'm gonna write product image here. Okay, we need to have a heading 2 for the title and also a paragraph for the description. Okay, now you can see here are all our products. You can style them. So for this I'm going to give a class name of product, and before that we need to give a class name for this div. So I'm gonna give a class name and call this products. So down here I'm going to target this products. Okay, we need to get a display grid and also get template columns. It should be repeat, and I'm gonna write auto fit minimum maximum should be 280 pixel and 1 fr. So the minimum width of this component should be 228 pixel and the maximum is gonna be 1 fr. So now let's check it. You can see we have this data. So now let's target this product, single product here. I'm gonna write a width of 100%. So let's target this product image. Let's set the width to be 100%. Okay, now you can see our products card are looking better, but we need to add more styling. So I just add a height of, let's say, 20 rem, and object width is going to be cover. Okay, now they are looking better. So let's add some gap between them. So inside this product, let's add gap of 2 rem. Okay, and let's style this title and description. So down here we need to target this product and our heading to, I believe it was the title. Okay, and we can write font size of 1.2 rem. Okay, and also we can add a padding here, padding of 1 rem. Okay, also let's target this paragraph, and for this we are going to add a font size of 0.9 rem. Okay, now you can see we need to add padding to this one also, so I'm going to duplicate this from here. Okay, and actually you can add some borders here. So inside this product I'm going to add border of 1 pixel solid and this black color. We need to add a padding of, let's say, 1 rem, and also let's add a border radius of 10 pixels. Okay, alright, I'm happy with this course. I know they are looking ugly, but at least you know how to fetch data using this fetch method. Okay, so the reason I use this grid is because I want this course to be responsive. So if I inspect this browser here, you can see my cores are completely responsive, so you don't have to define each page size here. It will be completely responsive. Okay, and we can add some padding top here. So for this product I'm gonna add a padding top of, let's say, 2 rem. Okay guys, if I refresh the page here, you can see at first we will see this loading and our product will be displayed here. Now let's see how we can actually print the single card in a separate page. So at first I'm going to make a new component, and I'm gonna call this single product.jsx. okay, and it should be products. Okay, let's change the name here. Now in here we need to make a new route. I just duplicate this route here. So let's print this single product, and also we need to write here product and our dynamic ID. So we are going to get this ID dynamically. Okay, so for example, if I try to navigate to product/1, you can see we have this single product here. So instead of this ID, we are going to send our original ID from our cart here. Okay, so I'm going to open this product again. Alright guys, so in here we need to first get our navigate hook here. It will help us navigate to that single page. It should be navigate, and okay, navigate, and it is a hook called use navigate. Okay, now down here we just make a new function. I'm gonna call this handle click. Okay, now inside here we need to navigate to that page. So let's add this simply literal here, and it should be product / our dynamic ID. Make sure to add this equal here. Okay, and let's structure this dynamic ID and pass it here. Okay, now let's pass this handle click to this div. Okay, now let's write on click here and pass this function here. Okay, so if I click any card, at first let's make it to be cursor pointer. So this product, I'm gonna set this to be cursor pointer here, and okay, now if I click this, you can see product and with the ID of 1. Okay, if I click this one, you can see product with the ID of 3. So now inside this single page we are going to fetch data based on this ID. If I try to open this fetch store API, as you can see, following this URL we need to have our ID. So this is how you can print the single post ID here. Okay, so inside this product, I mean this single product, I just copy everything from here, from this fetch method. Let's delete this data. Okay, I'm gonna copy this from here, and just paste them here. Okay, so let's import this useState hook and this useEffect hook. Now I'm going to change this double quote to be a template string so we can add our dynamic ID. But now how we can get this dynamic ID? Up here we need to import another hook called useParams. It's another hook coming from React Router DOM, and we need to get our ID from here. So if I write here ID, and let's console log this ID to see what we have here. I'm gonna inspect the browser. Now as you can see, we have this ID inside this object, so we can structure this ID from here by adding this inside this object. Now you can see we have that specific product ID here. So now what we need to do is we are going to print this ID following this base URL. So just print this dynamic ID here. Okay, let's make it $. Okay, so down here I'm going to have a new image. Okay, and the search is gonna be data.image, and it should be product.image. Okay, now you can see here is our product image, and also we need to have a heading too for the title. Let's say data.title. Okay, and a paragraph for our description. I'm gonna write here description. Okay, now you can see we have all the data here. So again I'm going to add a class name of single product. Okay, and let's copy this from here and I'm gonna add it here. So we are going to give a weight of, let's say, 70%. Margin should be 0 auto. Now you can see we have less weight, so I'm going to add this to in a separate div because we wanna add them side by side. Okay, so let's add display flex and gap of 2 rem. Okay, and let's target this image. I'm gonna add single product and image. I'm gonna add a height of 20 rem for this. Okay, now let's bring this card in the middle. So to do that, I'm going to wrap this with a section tag here. So let's add section. Okay, and I'm gonna give it a class name of product container. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this from here, and before this let's add a display grid and place items should be center. So using this 2 line of code we can center a div, and of course we need to add a height. So height should be 100 view height. Okay, I forget to save this file here. Now you can see our product is in the middle, and you can add the rating or other data. Okay, so let's open this one. You can see if I open this card, we will have this broken image. That's because we haven't add our loading. Okay, so I'm going to set a condition here. I'm going to say if we have loading, we wanna add loading here, otherwise we're going to show this product. Okay, so now if I refresh the page, you can see we don't have that broken image anymore, and instead we are going to show this loading. Now let's check other images here. Okay, let's check this one. Okay, alright guys, that's how you can fetch data using this built-in fetch method from JavaScript. Now let's see how you can fetch data using Axios. Okay guys, so at first I'm going to close this page because we don't need this. So now let's see how you can add Axios inside our React application. So as you can see inside this documentation, Axios is a promise-based HTTP client for Node.js and browser. Okay, so if I scroll down, you can actually read all of them. The features: make XML HTTP requests from the browser, make HTTP requests from Node.js, and you can read all of them here. If I scroll down, you can see this is how you can install this package inside our React application. So I'm gonna copy this from here, and let's close all the files here. Okay, open the terminal, and in here just paste it here. Okay, our package has been installed. So if I open this package JSON here, as you can see, we have Axios in here. Alright, so for this, I'm going to add a new component. So let's call it Axios. I'm going to make a new folder Axios. Okay, I'm going to make a new folder for this fetch. So fetch, and I'm going to move this inside this folder. Okay, so now I'm going to have a new component inside here. I'm going to write Axios method .js. Okay, and let's make a new page for this. So I'm gonna open this app.js. Okay, let's move this down here and call this fetch. Okay, and for this home page, we are going to print this Axios method. Okay, we get this error. So I'm going to import it from this fetch folder and fetch method. Okay, now you can see we don't have that error anymore. Alright, so I'm going to open this Axios, and inside here, similar to the previous method which we added inside this fetch component, we have similar functionality inside our Axios. Okay, so all you need to do is just copy all the data from here and paste them here. Okay, let's import the use state hook. So all you need to do is just replace this fetch with Axios.get. So this is how you can fetch data using Axios, and also make sure to import the use effect hook. So the only differences between this Axios and this fetch method is when you are going to make other HTTP requests. So for this Axios, you just add here post, or let's say delete. But for this fetch method, instead you are going to make a new object here, and you need to define your method. Okay, I'm going to write here method, and the method, whether it is post or let's say delete. Okay, following this, you need to define the data that you want to send to the server, and you need to write this inside this body. And let's say you have form data variable here, so it is the form data. Imagine it is a post request and you are sending some form data, and following that you need to define the content type. So it should be content type. Okay, and the type should be application/JSON. This is how you can make post, delete, and patch requests using this fetch method. But with Axios, you just simply add post here or delete. Okay, and just pass the data that you want to send to the server. So this is the difference between using Axios and this fetch built-in JavaScript method. Okay, so I'm going to delete this from here because this is a GET request, and also let's delete this from here and change this to be GET. Okay, so down here, if I console log this data, let's check it, you can see we have an error. This is because of this JSON, because in Axios we don't have to invoke this JSON type from our response. Okay, so only in fetch method you need to invoke this JSON, but using Axios you no longer need to invoke this JSON. So I'm gonna remove this and just pass this response to our set data use state hook. So now if I console log again, you can see we have successfully fetched our data here. Okay, so our data will be inside this data.data. Now you can see here are all our data. So similar to the previous one, you can actually copy that. So I'm gonna open this component again, and let's copy this div from here, and I'm gonna remove this and just paste it here. Okay, and instead of this data, you need to add data.data. Okay, if I save the files, you can see we have an error here. So for that, you can say if we have data here, we want to print this data, or if you don't want to make it long, you can add this question mark before these dots. Okay, so now if I refresh the page, okay, I forget to import this product, so let's import it here, and now you can see we have this products without any errors. Okay, now let's work on single products. So I'm gonna open this here, but this time I'm gonna open the single product, and I'm going to comment out this one. Instead, let's write response, which is equal to await Axios.get. Okay, and let's just add this one. Okay, now instead of this data, we're going to write here response.data. Make sure to add this question mark before that, and also add before this one. Okay, let's add for this image. Now as you can see, we have our data. So if I refresh the page, everything is working as expected. Alright guys, that's how you can fetch data using Axios. Now let's work on how you can fetch data using this MERN Stack query or React query. Alright guys, I'm going to close this page here. You can go ahead and open this mernstack.com, and from here you can just click read the docs. Okay, from here you can choose the version. I'm gonna choose the latest version, and if I scroll down, you can see we have an installation in here. So we need to install this MERN Stack query. So I'm gonna copy this installation code from here, and let's open the terminal. I'm going to close these files and open a new terminal here, and just install. Now let's see how we can connect this MERN Stack query or React query to our application. So if I scroll down, as you can see, here is another way to install this library inside our application using this CDN. You can use it if you want. So this is the requirement: Chrome 91, Firefox 90, version 90, and so on. So I'm gonna click this quick start here. As you can see, we need to wrap our application using this query client provider and just pass this client to this component. So in here, okay, our package is installed. I'm gonna close this terminal, and let's open this main.jsx. So I'm gonna copy this query client, okay, and up here let's add it, and you can import it from the MERN Stack React-query. So we need to wrap our application with this, and also as you can see, we need to add this client to be equal to query client. This query client is coming from this new query client function. I'm gonna copy this from here, and we need to add it up here. Of course, we need to import this, and we need to write here client, which is equal to this query client. Now if I refresh the page, you can see we don't have any errors here. It means that we have successfully added this React query inside our project. Now let's see how we can work with this. So if I scroll down, and actually let's open this queries from here. So a query is a declarative dependency on an asynchronous source of data that's tied to be a unique key. So using this query, we can actually fetch data from the API. But the good news for this is we no longer need to add our own loading or data use state hook like we have added inside this toHttp method. Instead, we can destructure this loading, which is currently is pending, is error, and is success from this use query. Okay, so if I scroll down, you can see he has destructured everything from this use query, and we need to have a query key and also a query function that will help us fetch this data. Okay, so in here you can see if we have any loading, or in his case if we have any pending, then we want to return this loading text. If we have any errors, we want to return this error message here. So now let's add it inside our application. So I'm going to close this from here, and inside this component, let's add a new folder. I'm going to call this React-query. Okay, and let's make a new component. And for this, I'm going to open this app.js, and let's move this Axios method to Axios page and add this React query to this home page. Okay, now you can see we have React queries in here. So now inside here, I'm going to destructure as loading, as pending, which is our loading, and also as error. All are coming from use query. Make sure to add it from MERN Stack React-query. Okay, so we need to have our parentheses, and inside here we need to have our query braces. So at first we need to have our query key. In this case, you need to add your keys. So I'm gonna call this product, and following that we need to have our query function. Okay, so you can either add your function inside here, or you can add it inside a separate file. Okay, actually it should be data. I made a mistake here. So for now, let's fetch data inside here. So inside this one, we need to have a try and catch block, and let's say const response, which is equal to await. Okay, let's make this function to be asynchronous function, and again we are going to use Axios library here. Okay, so I'm going to open this Axios, and let's copy this from here and just add it here. Okay, and all you need to do is just return this response. For this error message, we are going to throw a new error message here, and let's print this error.message. Okay, and that's how you can fetch data using this React query hook. So if I console log this data here, you can see how easy it is. You don't have to add a new use state hook for your data, or a new use state hook for your this loading. Okay, so if I inspect the browser here, now you can see we have an object, and inside this object we have our data. So if I write here data, now you can see here are all our data. Alright, so similar to the documentation, in here we need to state a condition. If we have a pending, we are going to return a new paragraph saying loading. Or if we have as error, we are going to return a new paragraph saying something went wrong. Okay, now if I refresh the page, you can see we have this loading, and then React query will be printed here. So now let's actually map to our data. So I'm going to copy this div from here, this container, and let's add it here. But this time we don't need this loading, so I'm going to copy this data and just print it here. Okay, and let's import this product. Okay, now let's check it. As you can see, we have the same data, but this time we have more efficient code. As you can see, we have our loading, our data inside one function. So you don't have to have separate use state hook for the loading and the data or for the error. Okay, so for this function, it's a good practice to make a new file because you may have more HTTP requests inside your application. So in the root of this application, I'm going to have a new folder and call this fetch data. Let's have a file. Let's say fetch product.js. Okay, so in here I'm going to have a new function called fetch products. It should be an asynchronous function, and inside here I'm going to copy this line of code with this try and catch block, and instead of this, okay, let's paste them here. Okay, and we need to actually import this fetch product from this file inside here. Now let's import it. Okay, I forget to import this Axios, and actually let's remove it from here. Now if I refresh the page, as you can see, we have our data similar to the previous one. Okay, now let's see how we can render our single data. So I'm going to close these two files, and instead let's open this single product. Okay, and this time I'm going to comment out this use effect hook. Okay, and down this one we need to add our query again. So I'm going to get this data as pending as error, all are coming from use query. We need to have our query key. If you remember, it was product, and also we need to pass our ID here. Okay, because we are going to fetch the single data, and following this we are going to have our query function, and this time we are going to have an arrow function and call this fetch single product, and just pass this ID here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this function, and let's copy and paste this. I'm gonna replace this name with the new one, and this time let's get this ID and just print this ID here. Okay, now we can actually import it here. Okay, we have this data duplication, we just comment out this too. Okay, so now if I refresh the page, we have an error. This is because we have added this loading which we don't have. So I'm gonna copy this div from here and paste it instead of this loading. And also because our data is inside data.data, we need to add a new data before this data here. So it should be data.data. Now you can see we have our product, but again we need to add our loading here. So I just copy and paste these two from here and add them here. Now if I refresh the page, you can see we have this loading here. Alright guys, that's how you can fetch data using React query. Actually you can make some post requests or delete requests. So if I open this React queries here, you can do that using mutation. So if I can find that here, you can see we have mutation here. You need to get this mutation, use mutation, and instead of query function, this time you need to have mutation function, and the rest will be the same. Okay, you can just make Axios.post and just pass your data. Okay guys, now let me give you an example inside my text editor. So all you need to do is just copy and paste this, and this time instead of this data we are going to receive muted. Okay, and you need to change this use query to be use mutation, and of course it's coming from this React query. Okay, and also in here you can have both muted async, which is working asynchronously, and this one is working without asynchronous behavior. Okay, so you can choose both of them. Now in here you need to change this query key to be mutation key, and also query function should be mutation function. Okay, and instead of this function you can add your own function. Now we are not sending the data to our post request using this arrow function, so just remove that from here. And down here you need to have a new function. I'm gonna call this handle submit. Okay, and it should be an arrow function, and inside here all you need to do is just write muted and pass your data. Let's say you have a form data. So if you want to have an asynchronous function, then all you need to do is just change this to be muted async, and just add this async before this arrow function, and make sure to change your function also here and add this await. Okay, so the difference between this muted async and this simple muted is only the asynchronous behavior. So asynchronous behavior will wait for a while and then print the data. Okay, and once you have written your function here, all you need to do is make a new function. Let's say I'm gonna copy this from here, and let's say this should be submit form, and in here we are going to receive our form data. All you need to do is add a new comma here, write form data, and in here you can add your HTTP request type. So either it can be post, it can be delete, or it can be put to update a new data. Okay, and now once you have made this function, just copy this function from here and replace it here. Okay, alright guys, this is how we can use React query inside our React application. Now let's see how we can use article query to fetch data inside React application. So we are done with this React query. I'm gonna close this here. Now let's see how you can work with article query from Redux. So at first I'm going to open this Get Started here. If I scroll down, you can actually read more about this Redux Toolkit. So it is a package intended to be the standard way to write Redux logic. So basically Redux Toolkit is for state management, but it has another feature that we can actually fetch our data. So now let's see how we can install this. So if I scroll down, you can see we have installation. So down here you can see we have this line of code to install this library, and following that we need to install our React Redux. Okay, so with Redux Toolkit we need to have React Redux also. So I'm gonna copy this from here, and let's open the terminal. Just paste them here and just write React Redux following this. Okay, now hit the enter to install this. Okay, now we don't need this because we are not going to manage any state. Instead we are going to open this article query. You can see it has an introduction. Welcome to the Redux Toolkit query tutorial. It has a cool tutorial in here. Article query is an advanced data fetching and caching tool designed to simplify common cases for loading data in web application. Okay, so if I scroll down, you can see in here we have how you can initialize this Redux Toolkit article query. So I'm going to close the terminal. We have successfully installed this library, and let's close all these files here. So inside here I'm going to have a new file called Redux, and inside here we need to add products.js. okay, so all you need to do is you need to copy this code from here and paste them here. Okay, so I'm gonna remove these comments. Now you can see it has imported the create API and fetch base queries. So this create API will help us generate our fetching function here, and also this fetch base query will actually target the base URL of our API. Okay, so I'm going to change this with our own API. So I'm going to copy this from here, and we need to replace it. This is our base URL. Okay, so in here we can add our endpoints, and this is the builder. So this is recommended by Redux to be added, and actually we need to change this name also, reducer path, and we can change this to be products. And following this, we need to change our query. So if we have something to send to the server, we can add that inside here. Otherwise we can remove this, so we don't need to send anything, and instead we just write our route here. So because following this we don't have any paths, so I just pass this slash, which is following this product. Okay, and down here we need to export this function. So instead of this one, I'm gonna name this products. Make sure to add this with get products. Okay, and you can actually change this also. I'm gonna call this fetch product. Okay, now let's see what else we have. So I'm gonna open this article query. If I scroll down, you can see we need to connect our article query to the React application. So we need to have a store file, we need to configure our Redux Toolkit, and also we need to import this file that we just made in here. So inside this Redux, let's have another file. I'm gonna call it store.js, and actually let's copy this all code from here and paste them here. Okay, so we need to configure our Redux Toolkit, and instead of this one we need to import this fetch product, and it's coming from this products file. Okay, so down here we're going to change this postman API with this new one, and also this one. Okay, so we need to have this middleware, which is recommended by the Redux Toolkit. You can see they have commented adding the API middleware enables caching, invalidation, pooling, and other useful features. So it will help you catch the errors, invalidate data, and some others. Okay, so you can read more about this inside the Redux Toolkit documentation. I'm gonna remove all the comments here, and that's it. So now let's see what else we should do. The final thing is we need to wrap our application with this provider, which is coming from Redux Toolkit, and just pass this store to this provider. So I'm going to open this main.js again, and this time let's remove everything here and import provider from React Redux. Okay, and also we need to pass this store, which is equal to store that we just added. Okay, now let's see whether we have any errors. You can see we don't have any errors. So for this we are going to have another component. So inside this component we need to say article query, Okay, and let's make the component here. And again, inside this app.js, we need to have another route. So let's move this React query to other page, and let's add this article query to the home page. Okay, now you can see we have this article query in here. So if I scroll down, you can see in here it will show us how you can use this fetch API. So similar to the React query, we need to have our data, error, and edge loading, and it's coming from this custom hook that we have added inside this product, which is called useGetProduct. Okay, so in here we are going to the structure is loading, should be edge loading, data, and error, and they are all coming from useProducts. Okay, so now if I console log this data here, okay guys, now let's check it. Okay, we get an error, useGetProducts is not a function. Okay, so let's make some changes. Actually our base URL is this one, so I'm gonna copy this products from here and just add it here following this slash. Let's remove the slash here, and also make sure to add this query after this name, because somehow it's important, otherwise it will give us this error. So I'm gonna copy this from here, let's import it here. Okay, so now let's check. If I refresh the page, now you can see we could successfully fetch our data. Okay, so again I'm going to open this file from here. Let's open the React query. Let's copy this from here and add them here. Okay, let's rename this to be as error, and also let's change this as pending to be as loading. Okay, you can see we have this loading text here, and also I'm gonna copy this div from here, just replace it here, and let's import this product, and this should be only data. Okay, now you can see we could successfully fetch our data using article query. Now let's see how you can fetch single data using this article query. So I'm gonna open this products here, and inside this endpoints you can add as much as endpoints that you need. So I'm gonna duplicate this from here, and let's name it get single product. Okay, and this time we're going to copy this and change this to be a temporary string, and we're going to send this ID. So this ID is coming from the client side, we're going to receive it from here. Okay, so now let's export this get single product. It should be used get single products query. Okay, now let's save this file. I'm gonna copy this from here and just open this single product. Okay, so up here we need to write here const, and it's coming from this use single get product query. Okay, and we're going to send the ID using this parenthesis. Now let's destructure this data is loading, and also this error. I'm gonna comment out this one to avoid duplication. Okay, and let's change this to be error. Also let's change this as pending to be as loading. Now we need to get rid of this data. Okay, now let's check it. As you can see, we have still this single data here. Now if I try to open any other products, you can see we could successfully open them here. Okay guys, and for other HTTP requests like post, delete, and put request, all you need to do is just duplicate this endpoint instead of this query, we need to have mutation here. Okay, and let's change this to be create product, and also we need to copy this from here. Instead, we need to write parentheses and this curly braces. So inside here, we need to first define the URL. So the URL should be this product, slash products, and following that, you need to define your method. So we have post request, we have delete request here, and also we have this put request. Okay, and following this, you need to define the data that you are going to send to the server. So you need to write here body, and in here you need to write whatever data you receive from the client side. So let's say form data, and just pass this form data here. Okay, and this is how you can make this put, delete, and post request using this article query. So now the way we can export this function is by writing use create product mutation. Okay, this is how you can export this function. So I'm gonna copy this from here, and again let's open this article query. Let's comment out this one, and down here we need to write const this empty array, and it's coming from use create product mutation. Make sure to import it. So I have already imported here. Okay, and from here, at first you need to destructure a function. You can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name this create product, and you can destructure this data is loading and error if you want. So you can destructure them also. Now down here, we need to make a new function. I'm gonna call this handle click. It should be an asynchronous function. Okay, and all we need to do is just write await and create product. From here you can get the form data. Okay, and just write form data here. Now you can set an on click to a button, and that's how you can make a put request, or let's say post request. Alright guys, that's it. This is how you can fetch data from article query, which is a part of Redux Toolkit. I hope this video was helpful for you. So if you want to watch more videos like this, please make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and give a subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.